Welcome to the Ref Show, first weekend of the Premier League season to look back on with Mark Lawrenson and with Keith Hackett this week. Mind you, plenty of talking points in the Football League, particularly the Championship as well, to get through. By and large, if you've read Keith Hackett's Daily Telegraph column, it's been a good weekend, opening weekend for Premier League referees, Keith.
Yes, it has. I think that they've come in, fired up, fresh, because I think that with the small squad they've got, last year you began to see fatiguing and this constant sort of travel game, and I think that towards the end of the season was creating a problem. But
not putting a downer on referees, it was a low-key opening weekend in terms of the fixtures. There were no powder keg ones there, were there? Huge ones, Mark.
Well, look, there wasn't. I think there was enough incidents though, wasn't it? I mean, the Chelsea game turned out to be a major thing. I thought the referee did great.
Craig Pawson, we'll come to him in a minute. Yeah. Courage at Stamford Bridge, 2 home players.
Well, he gave what he saw. I don't necessarily. I don't even need to say it's courage. It's just he gave what he saw, and I thought it was great.
Excellent. We'll come to those games and where the big talking points were, the 2 red cards there. But if there was a nitpick, people are still talking about video referees, whether it should be in or not, in relation to a couple of games. Arsenal 4, Leicester 3, Watford 3, Liverpool 3. By the way, 13 goals in the first 2 games of the Premier League.
Defence's on top.
Yeah, you'd have liked it. Would you like to be sitting here now with VARs, as they call them, in operation in the Premier League? You would?
Yeah. Why not get all the decisions right? In this sport, every other sport, as we know, and there's nothing like the same money in any of the other sport. Why wouldn't you want to get the decision right?
I know Keith agrees. Playing devil's advocate, it's introduced in other major leagues around the world, and we're seeing cock-ups, aren't we?
Well, look, there will still be. There's always that element. It will still be down to one man's decision, will it not? Is that right?
Absolutely.
So, but listen, if there were 1 or 2 cock-ups, does it really matter if we're getting far more decisions right? I mean, in fairness to Liverpool, and no bias, they could argue 2 of Watford's goals were offside, and they'd have a good argument.
I certainly, the one when the Watford player was on the goal line.
Yeah, the last goal.
The last one there was no ifs and buts about it. He was offside, and it should have been given.
This is the Britos goal.
Well, I think the assistant probably fell asleep.
Probably couldn't see him because of the post, Keith. Look,
but the other one was the Mesut Ozil one.
Yeah, Arsenal 4, Leicester 3. The build-up to the winner. Yeah.
Look, Mike Dean had a brilliant game. He had a brilliant game. He's just the right guy for the opening game to set the scene for the season. He allowed the game to flow, and the game was terrific. But Arsenal scored a goal that was illegal, and it influenced the outcome of the game. That can't be right.
It led to a corner.
The only thing is that the Leicester manager, Shakespeare, actually said the same thing. Yeah. But then he went, but you know what? Play went on after that, so we should have dealt with it, which is...
Great attitude.
Of course, it's a great attitude.
I mean, how far do you go back? I mean, I think
1948 in your case, I think.
Not quite. Thank you very much. Yeah. Nearly.
I think that the scenario as such is that just take rugby union. Yeah. Often they'll go back to not midfield but close to, and they'll say, was there a forward pass? Just checking it out. As if you like, just looking at a try. And I don't see why football can't do that. No. Look, anybody what we've got to try and do is in refereeing terms, is reduce their exposure to the comments that are made in the media. And a guy sat watching the television could have easily said, that's handball, and he blows straight away. We don't have the consequence of the ball going in the back into the centre. It's a free kick. So I just think that we're overcomplicating the use of the VAR. I think we're trying to say it can only be used in these situations rather than those. Let's just act as an assistant referee.
And an extra official who's helping the process seamlessly.
What's wrong with it?
Seamlessly.
What is wrong with it?
Seems to make sense to me. Otherwise, Mike Dean and Anthony Taylor, those referees in the high-scoring games, you marked them pretty...
Oh, I thought they were terrific. I mean, often we'll be critical of referees when they don't get things right.
I'm sure
but I think in these situations, had they had the VAR, it would have helped them.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to Craig Pawson, because you had high praise for him there, Mark. This was Chelsea 2, Burnley 3, an incredible result. Could it have taken place at any other time of the season than the opening game? Burnley going and winning like that there, or not?
I don't understand your question, really. Why would you say that?
Is that a vulnerable time for champions?
Oh, I see, for Chelsea. All right.
Could Burnley have gone there in December and been 3-0 up?
Arguably not. No. Arguably not, no. But it was... And I think I always think the thing with the first game of the season as well, as much as anything for players and for teams, is you don't know how fit you are. As in relation to the opposition, you played these games, you've travelled, all around the world. I think they go to China and all that kind of stuff. Chelsea. So you don't. I think that's one of the big things with the first few games, Alan. But and there's always some kind of scatty results without being disrespectful to Burnley. But Burnley played really well.
Yeah, well, full marks to him. The 2 red cards. I think you've been pretty supportive as well of Craig Pawson.
He could have got away. I think I listened to the commentator and I thought he was spot on. He could have got away with a yellow.
With Gary Cahill.
He could, but in reality, the message has got to go through to players that if you launch yourself with off the ground, you're out of control and you face the consequences. Pawson did not hesitate. He got a good view. One might argue he was too close and he might have seen the level of speed, but having said that, he took the right course of action. In terms of Fabregas, and it's a little bit like Jonjo Shelvey, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
We will do, come to that.
He's in idiot's corner later on.
Yeah, because why do we do that? I mean, look, you cannot applaud the referee publicly. If you do that, the referee's got no management ability to be able to go, look, have a word in the referee's ear.
Sarcasm.
But it's like a nonsense. And then, of course...
Bad challenge, wasn't it?
Well, it was a red card challenge.
Yeah.
There's no question that was a red card. And Pawson decided, right, I'll give him a yellow.
Yeah.
Can't appeal for that red.
Yeah, it was more of a red
But
than
it was more of a red.
Well, the thing with Cahill is he accepted it. He knew. Yeah. He absolutely, totally knew straight away what he'd done. And how often do you see that somebody run out the ball from the back and overrunning it, and then you just start to stretch?
To redeem a situation
Absolutely.
or whatever. And it's good to see so many, esteemed ex-pros like yourself and Alan Shearer, etc., all backing the referee on that one.
I don't think you can do anything else. I think if you back the players, you look an idiot.
Yeah. So we move on to the aforementioned Jonjo Shelvey in Spurs' 2-0 win at Newcastle. It was 0-0, wasn't it, when Shelvey stupidly stamped on Dele Alli. Open and shut case.
Yeah.
You've got all those supporters, they're passionate. I mean, all supporters are passionate. Yeah. Newcastle, I've lived up there for a couple of years. They are just like different.
And you've worked there.
And they really are passionate. And, I listened to some of the phoning yesterday. I don't often, but I did yesterday. And even their own supporters are disgusted by what he did. I just thought it was totally unbelievable. I mean, is he trying to help the player up? Why did he go towards the player? And then he just stamps on him. It's just ridiculous.
Why do you think he's had 4 clubs? Why do you think Liverpool sold him? Why do you think Swansea sold him? That's, and I heard someone on the radio this morning saying, and he's such a brilliant player. And I was screaming at the radio, driving in.
Really?
What?
He can be, can't he?
No. He's not brilliant.
So?
I think he's a good player. He's not brilliant. Messi's brilliant.
Yeah.
But, and this fella said, he should be in England's team every week. And I'm going, leave that one with you. I was swearing at the radio. Would you believe that?
You can't be a brilliant player while you're suspended anyway, can you?
No. So they've got a decision to make as well, Newcastle, with him, haven't they? Insofar as just take the captaincy away from him. Yeah. Just let him play. He can play, there's no doubt about it, but it's just, how idiotic is that? Against Tottenham at home, the top, side, it's hard enough 11 against 11, let alone 10 against 11.
We'll have some compliments for a number of referees in other games. We'll perhaps save them up for part 2, because we must congratulate Huddersfield Town. First game in the Premier League, to win 3-0 at Crystal Palace. I
thought the manager was great though, wasn't he?
David Wagner?
Yeah, but he said afterwards, we know this won't be normal, so we'll enjoy it for today, but we know what's coming. And I thought that was absolutely the perfect thing to say. Perfect.
Yeah. Good manager.
And well done, John Moss, in that game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He kept the game flowing. Didn't have to interfere. But, the credit in these situations, I know you put it on the referee, but the credit often is with the players. The players got on with what I saw of that game. They just got on with the game, which is great. That's what we want players to do. They're the ones that entertain. They're the ones that help the game flow.
Neil Swarbrick wouldn't have wanted headlines either. He didn't get any. Perfect. Wayne Rooney got them all with the Everton winner against Stoke.
When will the PGMOL recognise that Neil Swarbrick is a class act? Because he should get much bigger games on a more consistent basis. Just give him the games because he gets through them. He's a really nice guy. He doesn't go for the big time Charlie acts or whatever. He just delivers the performance.
And I know you know him well, so
He's my mate, so.
You're going to say
There's
you're
my
going to agree with
spokesperson.
Okay, in part 2 we'll have the rest of the Premier League action and a lot to talk about and several red cards as well in the Championship. We'll see you for that.